Thank you so much for joining us, Gandhi.
Thank you.
Let's take a deep dive into this. We have the presidential spokesperson of the African Action Congress, Comrade Onyinye-Gandhi Chukwunyere. It's a pleasure having you on SaharaTV again.
It's a pleasure to be here.
So let me start by asking you, how's the campaign been so far? What's been your experiences with Nigerians? I mean, going across Nigeria.
Well, it's been a very interesting experience. We have seen across the length and breadth of our country an enormous demand for change, not just change, but a complete transformation, a total overhaul of the existing order. The Nigerian people have made very clear in the course of our interactions with them that the present order does not serve them, does not serve their interest. They want their country to do their bidding. So it's been, again, an enriching experience. One of the things you take away from a campaign of this magnitude is the humility that comes from meeting the ordinary people on the ground, those who are daily being crushed by the misgovernance, the terrible policies of the current government and the governments before it. So we've, tried our best to instill hope, to let them know that that day of change is not very far away.
Now, ahead of the general elections, we have some couple of days. There still remains palpable anxieties and nervousness about the national political landscape. Your party has been considered a third party and a third force to be reckoned with in Nigeria. And we've also often find out that the third force or third parties in Nigeria have often tried and failed to break through the traditional APC-PDP divide. How's your party going to do this differently this time around?
Well, this time it is different. And yes, the historical inference you made is correct. For about 23 years now, these two behemoths have occupied the political landscape. They have acquired humongous amounts of resources, state resources, and with that, they have skewed the balance of power in their favor. But what they have not been able to control and what they cannot control is the fact that the Nigerian people have had more than 2 decades to test both of them, test them, and then taste the quality of leadership that they have offered. They've seen their policies, they've seen their promises. They've seen them offer an ex-general, actually 2 ex-generals. They've seen them offer, a PhD holder, all right? And they've seen them offer a so-called embodiment of integrity, if you will. And more than 2 decades after, the story remains the same. As a matter of fact, there could be an argument to be made that we were better off where we started in 1999 than where we are today. I used to tell people that far back in 1999, when some of us were still in secondary school, we used to have lights. There was electricity for a measurable period of time. So you've had a progressive decay in the quality of leadership. Now, that is what they cannot control. And that is why this time around, it is different. And you can see it on the street, you can hear it. As a matter of fact, in October 2020, when young Nigerians poured out into the streets to demand an end to police brutality and bad governance, and the state turned its guns on them and mowed them down while they were flying the national flag and singing the national anthem, that became a turning point. It was, from a historical standpoint, and I think future historians would document this, the Waterloo for the Nigerian ruling class. They showed the young people of Nigeria, who hitherto had some sort of false hope that they could persuade these individuals, that they could talk to them, that they could, bring out their better angels. They yanked off that facade, that illusion, and then they presented to them a do or die challenge. And the young people of our country have taken up that challenge. And that is why you've seen that in this election, the PDP and the APC are struggling. As a matter of fact, for the first time in Nigeria's political history, you see political feudals from both parties attacking themselves, airing their dirty laundries, and entertaining Nigerians with, constant renditions of inner secrets.
We will get to that. We will get to the internal squabbles of these political parties eventually later. But let me still ask you this question because it's quite germane. Because Nigerians are quite struggling to figure out what your party will do if you win this election on some of the issues that are most important to them. You owe it to the voters to tell them what your proposed policies will actually be. Could you articulate specific policy positions of your party in terms of insecurity, economy, for example?
Yes, let me start directly with the current crisis you have, the currency crisis, because it speaks to the economy.
Yeah.
Now, the Central Bank of Nigeria has given the excuse that they're trying to, control the ability of politicians. And this excuse actually came not just from CBN, but also from Nigeria's president, Mr. Muhammadu Buhari, that they're trying to prevent some politicians from having enormous resources to be able to buy the polls. It's actually an intention that we agree with. We think that is noble. They've also said that they want to mop up excess supply of naira within the economy, especially the currency that is circulating within the informal sectors of the economy. And that is a sentiment that we also totally agree with. The problem is that under the system that they practice, Western style capitalism, there are smarter tools for that. As a matter of fact, you have what is called contractionary monetary policies. Open market operation is how it is deployed. What that entails essentially is that the central bank of the particular country, when it feels that there's excess liquidity or rather excess currency supply, it steps in, it buys or sells bonds, federal government bonds. Now that controls the quantity of currency available to the banks for lending purposes. Now, if the money is too much, then they are purchasing, meaning they are buying rather. So they are reducing the monetary supply. And when they do that, the interest rate is then raised. And when you have higher interest rates, people borrow less. Now, when people borrow less, the money supply is significantly reduced. Now, the ability to spend is also significantly reduced. So that curbs inflation, that curbs money supply. Now, that's a smarter way to mop up the excess system. But we understand that they cannot do that. And why can they not do that? Because Nigerian banks do not function like banks in other capitalist realms. I remember we're not capitalist proponents. We don't agree with those things I just explained, for example. But that's how it works. If they really wanted to do it, that's how they should have gone about it. Now, why haven't they done it? Because we are not a nation of laws. The banks in Nigeria do not exist to distribute and allocate capital for national development to end entrepreneurs, the way it is done in other capitalist realms. They exist as depots to hoard wealth and cash for the tiniest minority of the country's very rich people. That's how and that is why the country is in doldrums. Now, the step they have taken was not properly thought out. To curb politicians from buying votes, there are laws on our books. All you have to do is enforce them. If you see people bringing Ghana must go to the polling station to bribe people, you can't away both the Ghana must go and those deploying it for electoral vote purchasing. All right. Now, if you think that they're going to purchase thugs, we have security agencies that you could deploy and make them do the bidding. Now, you do not implement a policy whose short-term impact will be significantly hard on the generality of the Nigerian people than the few individuals you can target when you can deploy state power to curb those individuals if you were really, really interested in holding them. And that is why you've seen that chaos around the country. What are we going to do differently? Sure. We have said that the economy in Nigeria currently runs for the benefits of very few people. All right. And that's why you see mass starvation. We are the poverty capital of the world. 133 million people in poverty. We are going to socialize the economy. What that means is that the commanding sectors of the Nigerian economy, those aspects of the economy, communication, transportation, banking, core industries, defense, we are going to bring them under the direct control and ownership of the Nigerian people with ample space for private participation. We're not curbing privates, but we believe that, and we have said this before, and I'm repeating it again, we believe that with the monumental developmental deficits that the country currently suffers from, we cannot rely on private entrepreneurs alone to develop the country, because they cannot and they will not. So because of that, we are going to plan, centralize, and make the Nigerian people, through their government, the primary points in the development of the Nigerian nation. So the Bank of Industry, for example, the Bank of the Federal Agricultural Bank, the Federal Mortgage Bank, there are a whole lot of banks that exist for the purpose of driving growth and development in Nigeria, will be removed from the current sphere of servicing Nigeria's rich, and we're going to localize huge resources there to drive housing, to drive agriculture, to drive industrialization to the ordinary people of Nigeria. Now, with regards to industry, essentially, we're going to solve the power crisis. Again, I know a lot of people have made promises about this, all right? But we understand that power is key. You just explained before we started this program that you had to go buy diesel, meaning that if you couldn't get fuel, this program would not have helped. And there are, I bet you, thousands, if not millions, of similar productive engagements across the length and breadth of our country today that will be cancelled, productive economic endeavors that will be cancelled because they cannot get gas to power the economy. So that is why for us, energy is a core priority. And what we're proposing is completely different. We feel that the sale of federal power infrastructure to private individuals, what they call discos, is not the way to go. And that sale occurred as far back as under Olusegun Obasanjo, all right? We've had more than 10 years to try the efficacy. And we've seen that that has failed massively. We are going to nationalize the power sector. And then we're going to deploy what our party constantly explains as energy mix, meaning that we're taking from solar, we're taking from biomass, we're taking from hydropower, we're taking, even we can even experiment with nuclear power. But what we're certain of doing is that within the first 2 years, if not less, we're going to power the entire country. We have 200 million people. We're producing less than 10,000 megawatts of electricity. South Africa, with about 40 million people, all right, is producing, I think, about 6 or 7 times more than we're producing. And they are building more power stations to be able to meet that demand. So we're going to make that aggressive investment in energy. Now, why will our investment pay off? Because people will argue, but others are doing it. Others are saying that they're going to do it. How is yours different? The reason ours will pay off is that we are going to cleanse the ocean stable. We're not like the parties that are saying that they're not looking back. They just want to face forward. We respectfully argue that if you do not ascertain what went wrong in the past, your ability to fix the present and prepare for the future is going to be significantly limited. So because of that, everybody that has stolen a dime, that has compromised the ability of Nigerians to enjoy power and drive development, all right, is going to have to account. We're not on a revenge mission. We're just on an accountability mission. And any nation, any environment that will work, relies essentially on accountability. So that's why ours will be different. We're going to be looking to what went wrong in the past. Contractors who currently have $16 billion of our money, who didn't give us any electricity, and many of whom are currently in the country. Are we just going to let them go by because we don't want to, prick the elephant? So we're going to do that. Now, when we do that, what that does to the system is to ensure that the new people who are going to get contracts to deploy this solution will take you very seriously, because they know that you are not going to allow profligacy, you're not going to allow investment, you're not going to allow the flippant frittering away of the resources of the Nigerian people. So we're going to deploy that. Now, one example is this anyway. We have determined from our own internal studies that placing solar farms in the arid areas of Borno, Sokoto, and other parts of the country where you have generous distribution of sunlight can power all of the north of Nigeria and have excess energy for the rest of the country. Meaning that if you focus solar energy in the north, you could now concentrate on hydro energy for parts of the south and other parts. As a matter of fact, you can use coal. There's a newer technology, for harnessing coal to make it greener, and then to power parts of the Southeast. So we have solutions that are tabled for that. And we are convinced that when we do this, you are going to have the creation of millions of jobs, well-paying jobs, well-paying jobs. We're insisting on the payment of living wage, not minimum wage. The concept of minimum wage is not something that we accept. There's no such thing as minimum for the worker. The worker does not exist to live minimally, because the worker drives the society. The worker must earn a living wage. So jobs that pay, living wage, and we're going to have a national minimum for that. Then we are combining that with, as I explained earlier on, releasing capital to federally controlled banks that will drive development. I mentioned Bank of Industry, we mentioned the Federal Mortgage Bank, we have mentioned all of these banks.